welcome. I'm Laura Rogers. This is SharePoint Power Hour. This is our weekly show, Wednesdays at 11. I have Joelle Jobson here on audio.
Hello, everybody.
And today's topic is going to be SharePoint new site owner onboarding. So there's a good bit of background around this. Now, if you work at a really large global company, a big company where you have programmers, you might already have site onboarding in place because programmers can create some custom processes and custom interfaces and have some sort of special form people have to fill in before they can even create a site, maybe where it goes through one place and then the site and all these things automatically get generated behind the scenes. So this session is not for people who already have site onboarding in place and you have some kind of custom site request process. This is the opposite of a site request. You're not having to request anything. So in SharePoint and SharePoint Online, you have a new site button that's there that people can click whenever they want to create a new site. You have a new group button in Outlook. You have a new Teams button in Teams. You have a new Planner button in Planner. So you have all these different directions people might come from. And all those things result in a new SharePoint site getting created. So people might have created a SharePoint site and they don't even know they created it. They were just in Outlook and wanted to create a group of people that they could all email each other. So this is based on the premise that you're not stopping them from creating a site. You're doing an automated process after it gets created. And that's actually Microsoft's best practice that you'll hear them say a lot is don't lock it down and prevent them from creating stuff. Just let them create it. And because the alternative to that is if you lock all this stuff down and prevent them, they're going to go do something else. They're going to go just use Dropbox or they're going to go just use Slack. They're just going to find a way and do something else if you block them. So try just not to block them. Let things occur and get created as they get created. But this idea in this session is that we're going to just have a process so that you'll know when new sites get created and you can have some automation around that, some information you want to tell the site owner and that kind of stuff. So one of the fun things about Power Hour is that we have our little chat windows. So we use Slack. And wherever you're watching this video, there's probably a link at it's iwmentor.slack.com. And if you're joining for the very first time, it's got a little form to fill out to join, but that's where our little live conversation is going. So I've been and I asked this on Twitter yesterday, I've been trying to get some ideas from people because like Matt said in the chat window, site sprawl is a big problem. Well, first of all, is it a problem? How much do you care? How much do you want to control it? And then kind of what exactly do you all want to do? What ideally would you want to do with new site owners or tell new site owners? Because there are some automatic emails that go out when you create a new group. And when you invite people to a new Office 365 group, you'll get a little generic welcome email and it tells them how to get to their site and how to put files in it. So they're already getting a little bit of basic information. So the question here is, well, first of all, just let them create the stuff. And then what do you want to happen? Now, some people now are of the camp that, let them create the sites. Who cares? Just let it become this long list of hundreds and hundreds of sites, whatever. And some people have just kind of let go and just let it become that. But some people are maybe more like to be in control or more OCD like me, and you like to know what the sites are for. Are they using them? Did they create it and forget about it the next day? Is it just sitting out there empty? It's not hurting anything really if it's sitting out there empty, but I like to kind of keep things neat and organized and not have a bunch of duplicates and not have a bunch of just long list of sites, right? So let's talk about, oh yeah, you were there. That's cool. So I did a session at Ignite in November called, what was it called? Quickly Ramp Up SharePoint Site Owners. And I just put a link to it in the chat window. And that was just one of those little 20-minute theater sessions. And I was just talking about just theoretically these concepts of what would you want to, sites are going to appear everywhere. What would you want to manage? What do you want your site life cycle to be? And just kind of educating them that they are a new site owner. They may not even know that they have a site. They may not have read the automatic welcome email. Do you want to make sure that they check for duplicates before they created it? Do you want to, how long are you going to need this new site? Or is it maybe just a test site? Do you have a secondary site owner? Should this site be added to one of the site hubs? So just a lot of things to think about. Do you have training? Like, do you have a specific training that you want all your site owners to go through, or just some little quick 20-minute training to let them know some extreme basics about what they're dealing with? So just kind of think about that. And so in the chat room, I'm kind of, Joelle, you're going to help me see what kind of ideas we're getting in here as I go through. So I'll go ahead and go into my demo of what my solution is. Now, the solution does not involve any programming. It doesn't involve anything going into Azure or PowerShell. So this is more of something that just like a non-super tech like me, just kind of semi-power user could potentially do. Now, the thing is that we're starting, so you have to have at least this first part is done in Office 365 admin. So you at least have to have an admin do this for you. But you have to be notified about the site getting created in the first place. The way I do it in this solution is to have an alert. So I have this, I went to alerts in protection.office.com, go to the dashboard and go to activity alerts. And I created an activity alert. This is really neat. I mean, I think I did a whole other power hour about this where I went into reporting and alerts and stuff. But this is where you can tell it that you want to be notified about certain things happening, and it will just automatically send you an email. So I just called it new site collection. And I just said, send this alert when, and there are hundreds of activities you can pick from, having to do with SharePoint and OneDrive and Flow, Exchange, just everything in Office 365. So you could check multiple boxes. I just created one based on created site collection. Somebody created a site collection. And you'll even get these for OneDrives because those are also site collections. So who do I want the alert to go to? I'm just sending it to me. Probably in the real world, you'd want this to go to maybe a shared mailbox and not just you personally. But this is my test environment. I'm just sending this alert to me to know when a new site gets created. So then I'm going to base a flow off of that email arriving about the new site. Pretty cool. Okay, so that's what it's based on. That alert as soon as, now this is not instantaneous. This takes like 15 or 20 minutes. So I created a couple of new sites and an hour ago or so, and it took them again like 15 or 20 minutes for each of these emails to come in. So I'm not going to be creating new sites on the fly during this presentation because it just takes a while. But that's where it starts. So you get the email. It goes into other here. Let's see. See, these are the different names of the different alerts I have, right? So I have new site collection. So Alex created a site collection, and here's the URL to it. And I think I did like 3 of them. New site collection. Billy. Okay, so here's the email you get. The only thing you know about the site, it's not much. It's who created it and what's the URL to the site that they created. So it's not much to work with, which is kind of frustrating, but it gives us enough we can do some stuff to automate to have it go, get kicked off with a flow. So this email arriving is triggering a flow. So I'm hesitating to show you this entire thing. I might just start because it's kind of massive as to what I had to do. So I might just kind of go through it I don't think I have time in an hour to start from scratch and build it all one at a time, but I'm going to try to go through it in the easiest way that I can. So, and I'm going to tell you about all these variables later, because those are things that I just kind of realized later that I was going to need. So it just starts when a new email arrives in my inbox. And again, you could do, there's a trigger for a new email arriving in a shared mailbox. So you don't have to have your own personal, this going to your personal email. So what I did was I put the subject filter is very specific, notification for the alert news site collection, because that is the exact subject of that email. So only those emails are going to trigger this specific set of actions. All right, so then what we get, again, is just that email. So the best thing to do, best way to, and again, I'm initializing a bunch of variables that I'll tell you about later. Initializing them just means I have to say that they exist. I'm taking the body of the email, so a new email arrives, the body, and I'm just converting it to text with this little HTML to text converter action, because then it's a lot easier to read what's in it. Okay, so then this part's kind of complicated, and this part kind of gets into kind of messy, complicated expressions in, oops, let me pull up another slide deck, in the little interface here. So I actually have a slide that exists in our Power Automate class that I'll just show you one slide that will explain some of what I'm about to show you here, because that's kind of, it's a bit much. I got to explain to you what it's going to do. So what I'm doing is after the email arrives, I have to go find all these little specific things in it, because this is what I'm dealing with. It's just text in the body of the email. So I have to go find all these little spots and extract them. So those of you who have taken my flow class, this will probably be familiar, because we have a few slides where we talk about going in and extracting specific text from an email in a flow. And we talk a good bit about, how you could go about that. Let me go do that. Let's see. So it's getting the body. Let me go find this in my slides. There we go. Okay. I'm going to show you this one slide and break it down. Okay, so in this example in my slide from my flow class, Power Automate class, I'm getting an email and I want to go find this one little specific thing in the email. So whatever your specific thing, little part of the email that you want to find, you need to know, in this case, I need to know the ID, which is this number, but I need to already know what's going to come before it and what's going to come after it. So in this expression, I'm extracting out what's between the ID colon and the little tilde here. So I'm going to use this substring expression. I'm getting the substring of this thing that was just converted to text, and I'm adding this number, the index of where this ID colon is, to and I'm getting this number where the tilde is, and I'm subtracting this number from this number. So that gives me how long this is supposed to be, and that gives me the exact substring that I'm getting between these two things. So, and that's the reference of all those little expressions that I'm using. The substring, subtracts, adds, index of, last index of. So in this one, and I'm also even wrapping it in a trim, because that will just trim any white space off of it. So I'll go grab all this and show you that, because I'm doing that in several places in here. Then that's how I go extract all those little specific things out of the email when it arrives. Let's see. I'll put this in a Notepad++. So I'm doing a trim, substring, the body of this HTML. I'm adding the index of, so in this case, I'm going to find the word user. So look, see, user colon. So I want to go get what's in between user colon and item colon, and that will give me that person's email address. So I want to go add, so this is 5 characters. See, USER colon is 5 characters. So I want to go get the index of that. And then I'm subtracting the index of where the thing after that is, and go back to my email. Thing after it is item. So I need the index of where item is. So the index of item. So then I'm subtracting one from the other, and that the result of this expression is that it just gives me that person's email address. That's fun, right? Let's see. You enjoying this so far? Okay, so this is just kind of anytime you have an email or anytime you want to do something with one of these alert emails, this is the kind of thing you're going to have to do to be able to extract the specific information that you want out of that text. So I'm doing that one, and then I also need to get the site URL. So for the site URL, I'm getting what's in between item colon and client, and these are always going to be structured the same. So I just need, this will be in between these two things. So then I'm doing the same thing, and I'm going to get that item, which is the site. Same exact concept. And then I'm also getting the created. So that's another one that's going to be in here. Time of activity. And I'll show you in a minute why I need that. But I'm getting this time of activity that's going to give me this date right here of when it was created. Because guess what? The time it was created is not exactly the same time that the flow got kicked off, that the email arrived. Because remember, I said it takes 15 or 20 minutes. So I don't want to rely on a time that just whenever the email arrived. I want to know exactly when the site got created. So that's what I'm also getting in here. I'm getting variable when created. So I've got a variable user to let me know the person's email address. Then I'm getting the site URL, and then I'm getting when it was created. So all 3 of those, I'm using the exact same concept of just getting that little substring in between 2 things. And then I'm taking this variable when created, and I want it to be in my time zone, because by default it's going to be UTC time zone. So I'm taking this convert time zone action and just converting it from UTC to my time zone, which is Central. And Central Time is going to be the time zone in my SharePoint site too. All right, let's see. Y'all's minds are blown, right? Okay, so then what do I have so far? So let me show you what I have so far. I'm going to go to just up to the last time I ran it, so you can see what data that I have, so you'll understand why I had to keep going further in order to get more information. So a new email arrives. I'm initializing a bunch of variables. Here's my converted text. So see, it's very simple, just plain text. That's the body of my email. And then see, there's my user. So I set my variable user. I have him. Set my variable item. That's the URL. You'll follow me so far, right? And then that is when it was created. So what I can do is I created this SharePoint site called Sites Owners, and I'm just putting the URL of that site I just put that in the title field. And then the site owner is just based off of that person's email address, and I'm just putting in the site owner field. But that's the only data I have so far. So you could just stop right now and just do whatever you want to with that amount of data that you have with just the site owner and the URL. And you'd still be able to send them an email and let them know about their site, or anything you want to do. You could just have the next action be to send them an email. But I wanted to know more information about the site itself. So I wanted to have the name of the site, the group ID, the group email, the site description, maybe the template they used when they created it. So additional information about the site other than just these two things. And that ended up being a huge pain because there is not an action in Flow to go get me all the information about a site. You can't just say, here's a site, give me all the data. Now, the first thing I tried was the HTTP, the SharePoint HTTP GET, where you can go get, just, tap into the web services and go get information about a site. That's the first thing I tried. That didn't work because even though I'm a global admin, I have God mode, this is my demo tenant, I don't have access to that new site that just got created. So I can't even run the get HTTP get command on it and get any information about the site. It gives me access denied. Is that a pain or what? So what I had to do, y'all following me? I'm trying to read some of your comments here. Okay, so what I had to do was a whole bunch of extra, just really, really stupid amount of steps just to go get some additional information. So this is really up to you. It's not required that you do this, but I'll kind of tell you what I had to go through to do this. So I want to get the information about the Office 365 group. Now this part is not going to apply for communication sites. If they created a communication site, there's nothing I've been able to figure out for that. So the only information you're going to have if it's a communication site is just the site URL and their name. So that's just kind of where I left off for communication sites. But if it is an Office 365 group, so they created it as an actual team site, then I'm using this action called get groups of a user. So I'll just go back to edit this. So I take whoever this user was who just created a new site, and I just go get all the groups that they're in. And that is an Azure AD action. And then I go ahead and just create an item in SharePoint, and I just fill in those two first fields, the title, which is just the site URL, and the user. So I just go ahead and get that knocked out and create it. But I am going to go fill in some additional information about it in a minute. So this would, if it was a communication site, it still would have gotten this far and created the item. Let me see. Maybe I haven't created any communication sites so far. Okay. Okay. So then it's going to get the group. And then once I go and get the group, let me tell you why this part was frustrating. And I'll go into one I already did. I'll go get the groups of a user. And once I get the groups of a user, this is what I have. I have just a bunch of IDs. This is all it gives me. So I have no way of matching up just a URL to a group. This group's information has no URL in it at all. At all. So again, this is really kludgy because I have nothing to match up the groups the person is in with the site they just created, because it's giving me a bunch of IDs and all I have is for the site is the URL. So the way I did that was I go get the group, and it gives me, and this is getting every single group that that person is a member of, by the way. So this is the output. It's giving me the ID, the created date and time, description, display name, mail, etc. So this is Stacy. Yes, all this information is in the admin center. All this information is in all of your sites that are listed in the admin center. This is just for an immediate action that you want to automatically happen when the site is created. You can go in anytime in the admin center and see your list of sites and do stuff with it or export it or anything. This is just to be triggered automatically and to get information about the site automatically. So at least with the email, you know to go look in the admin center. Maybe that's just all you want to do. So this is just kind of steps that I took because I wanted to automatically have a SharePoint list of all my sites with all the information about them without having to do anything or go look in the admin center. Does that make sense? So yeah, there's lots of information that you could get manually at any point. So that's the whole point of this is just what's happening automatically right when they create it. Okay. So what I did was, let me go back to edit, to be able to that list of groups that the person is a member of, it's looking at now the name of the site. I don't even have that either because from the initial data, again, all I have is the URL and the person's name. I don't even have the name of the site. So the only piece of data I was able to extract that I can actually match up is this data about when the site was created. And this data inside, when it goes and gets a group, it has a field in there of when it was created. So I'm using that. I'm getting this converted time zone, and I'm saying that starts with this, basically this time zone that the site was created. So essentially, it's looking through the list of all the groups the person is a member of, and it's just going to find the one that has a create date time that matches the create date time that this alert came in, right? So again, okay, so then once I have that, then I have all this additional information. Let me show you what you have about that site once you do that. So it's only going to go down this if yes, if once they find that one correct site that matches. Okay, so I've got, let's go here, get group. Okay. So I've got the display name of the group, the ID, the group's email address, the site description, the privacy of the group. See, I've got whether it's email enabled or not, whether it's security enabled. See, the visibility is the public or private. And so this is all the data that I have about the group. And then I can go do an update item action and go fill all that in my SharePoint list over here. So you can see that it filled in all this information. All right, so then if you want to, now I didn't do anything with this list of members, but I wanted to show you that you can, there are a couple of different ways you can get who the group members are. And so there's an Office 365 action called list group members, and there's an Azure AD get group members. So I'm doing those actions, but I'm not doing anything with the data. So theoretically, if you wanted to have all the list of the members, if you want to do something with those, you could use either of those actions. The Azure connector is not premium, Lisa, but you have to be an admin to be able to use it. So when I first add that connector into a flow, it's looking at my authentication information. And in my experience, if I'm not a global admin, it doesn't let me use it. So for example, I have a customer where I'm using this in one of the flows, and they made me a global admin, but it didn't work before that. So I'm not sure granularly what other type of permission I might need to have somewhere in between just SharePoint administrator and global admin that might give me the same thing. But I know that global admins can have access to it. So list group members, though, you can do this. Anybody can do this. The Office 365 actions, you don't have to be an admin, but the Azure ones you do. But it isn't premium. At least not last time I looked. I'm using this Azure thing in just all my test tenants and demo tenants and customers and stuff, and the Azure thing has never had any kind of special license it needs me to have just for the Azure connector. It's just having the permission, being a global admin to be able to use it. Yeah. So again, I can use either one of these. Let's go see what kind of data it gives us. The list group members and get group members. Because, you're going to want to try these out just to kind of see what the data, how useful it is. So this one is giving me a bunch of information, like all their data, like their name, their title, and a bunch of stuff from their profile. And that would be a list of a bunch of people that are in that group. And this one kind of gives me the same stuff, so either way. But I had to use get groups of a user is an Azure one that I had to use up here to get that list of groups in the first place. And there isn't one like that for Office 365 groups. Okay, so then here's the fun part. So send an email. So let's go look at a couple of these have been sent just since this morning when I started testing it. So congrats on creating your SharePoint site. Here's a quiz to take. And it says, here's your site. And it's got a hyperlink to the site. It tells them a little bit about it. So you don't want to get too overwhelming. They're not going to read it. You know your people, right? They're not going to read this. So you want to make it as succinct as possible. So I've just put some basic steps in this email. So I put, here are a few quick tips that these are the most important things you'll need to know when getting started with your site. Step 1, add members. And I put these images just in SharePoint, so it's just referencing them. Step 2, add files, and it's just a picture of a library. Step 3, customize your homepage. And step 4, a little bit of admin stuff if they want to know their site usage. But you know, obviously you can write your email to say whatever you want. So that is what it's doing. It's sending them this welcome email, just the site owner. What do you want to do after that? So I send them this email. Let me go back to the edit mode here. And I tell them to take a quiz. So here is a form that I created just with Microsoft with Forms. And I created it as a quiz. Stacy says, anyone figured out how to automatically create a site from Power Apps or Flow without premium connectors? Joelle, have you done site creation? I think you have in Flow.
Yeah, but it was with a premium connector. Yeah, it's the HTTP one you need, not the... If you're doing subsites, which you shouldn't do anyway, but if you're doing subsites, you can use the SharePoint one, the SharePoint connector, but if you need to create site collections, you have to use the main HTTP, which is premium.
Good to know. So I created this site owner quiz. Now it's just a demo. So I only created 2 questions, but the idea here is that you can decide in your site owner quiz what you absolutely need them to know. You can send them to a SharePoint page that has like some training, or send them a Word document, or send them the information you need them to know and study as a site owner. The most essential information, like permissions and stuff, is important. And then give them a quiz. And so they have to take the quiz. And then in this example, I have it so that I have a different flow that runs after they take the quiz. So I've only got 2 questions. It's just an example, but I'm going to look at these answers to the questions in this other flow. Site owner quiz answers. And the trigger is when a new response is submitted to my site owner quiz. I even did little points in here. So see, I put points 5 for each one, so you can have it. So they have to have a certain number of points. This is not using the, what's it called, Forms Pro or anything like that. So the data you get in Flow is kind of painful to deal with. So I just created a variable called score. And now I've noticed that Microsoft Forms, it used to put, when you do this get response details action, and I did this a few months ago, it used to automatically put it in a loop for no reason, because it's just one response being submitted. So I think that now when new flows are created and you do this, it doesn't put it in a loop anymore, but the loop is not for a purpose. The loop here, this apply to each, is just, it appeared there and I just went with it. So it's just get response details from whatever they responded to in the quiz. And then I had to do all this manually. So this is question 1. Is the answer equal to site contents? Then I do a variable, increment my variable by 5 points. And then for question 2, another condition is their answer to it highlighted content. Then I increment it by another score. And then I go to the site owners list and I go and get where site owner email equals whoever the person is. So it's going to go find in this site owner list, it's going to go find all the items where the site owner equals the person who just took the test. So that person might have multiple items in here. And then it's going to put their score. So it's going to go ahead and just put their score in every single item in that list. So I ran this like a few months ago when there was only one item in here. He took the quiz and it just put his grade was 5 in here. So Alex just created one. So I'm logged in as Alex over here. And I just wanted to show you real quick. Alex got this welcome email when Billy Bob added him to the group. So again, there's already sort of a welcome process. It's just this session, this idea is that you could kind of create your own other than just the generic emails. So let me go over to Alex here. And Alex just got the email about his new site. And I put the quiz first. Notice that because I want them to, because they're not going to read past, one scroll. So I went ahead and put the quiz first. And then, so let's see. Now I'm logged in as Alex here and I'm taking the quiz. All right. And you can even make the quiz so that it only allows them to take it once or whatever. Okay. So now let's go see what happens. That should probably come in pretty quick. Yeah, 10 seconds ago. Okay. So now it found him and it updated his score and it put a 10 in there. So let's go look at this list here. And look, there's a quiz grade 10. All right, so then this is kind of where it gets to be more open-end and what, what you want it to do. So Mandy says, any chance to get some quiz templates? Well, if you're a student in my own training site, I've got quizzes, but I don't have any kind of Microsoft Forms like SharePoint quiz already built or anything. I just created these 2 questions. So it's really, I kind of wanted it to be, what do you think is important for them to know? And what's the most common thing people screw up in the sites in your in your environment so that you make sure that they learn it, All right, so that was the quiz and that gave him his score. Let me go back to the chat here. Let's see, what else is going on in the chat, Joelle, that I might need to address about what other things to do. Are you muted?
No, I'm just looking.
Oh, okay.
I don't think there really is.
Oh, yeah. So
other than just Mandy's last question.
Which one? I was going to say,
Mandy.
Ant said you try and show if it's possible to let the site owner know if they don't create certain tasks by a certain date, the site will be deleted. Yes, that's kind of what I was getting at that we could do next. What's the other one you were saying?
No, just Mandy's question about a quiz template.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was talking about.
No, she just is wondering if there is if you have any quiz templates.
No, I said I don't know. And Stacy says, do they get the same quiz for every site they create? Yeah, but you could make it so that, let's see, what you could do that I didn't do is that you could, let's see, instead of sending them a quiz, you could just not send them a quiz at all if they've already taken it. So one thing you could do would be in here, you could have a variable that's got this verbiage about the quiz. You could create, I'll keep drilling down, like this thing. And you could have that like in a string variable. And then you, before you send this, you could go look at that SharePoint list and see if there's already an item in there where that person is the site owner. And if there's already a quiz score, then you could leave the variable empty. Otherwise, put the variable that, having this verbiage in it. Does that make sense? So that's similar approaches to a new user added to a team or group. I feel like for new users in a team or group, that's the kind of thing that hopefully you're going to delegate to the owners. And that's one of the things you need to impart to the owners, that it's their job they own this thing, and it's their job to educate their users and help their users and let the users know that they're the one to contact or how to get help and stuff like that. So, no, I haven't done anything around just all the end users. They do get that little site welcome email, but that's about it. Okay, so now what do we do if they don't take the quiz? So one thing we could do in SharePoint. Now this is the part of Power Hour where I'm just kind of making something up. But I did kind of want to see if you all want to yank the site back away from them if they don't get a certain score on the quiz. So that's kind of that's the direction I'll go ahead and go. You all let me know kind of what else that you'd want to happen. But yeah. All right. I'm going to add a column. Date. I'm going to say quiz taken. Date and time. Okay, now go back to, so whenever they take the quiz, then quiz taken can be like now, like that. So then it applies that. So then I'll go ahead and just run that on that last one that just went. And we should see it. Oh, it failed. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Oh, I didn't put that's weird. Submission time. There we go. I'll just put that. Lisa, I don't know if you can do this if you're a global reader. I'm not sure. Like I said, I was a SharePoint admin and it didn't work, and then they made me a global admin and it did work. So I'm not sure kind of what in between. I didn't test kind of all the different roles and things to see what you had to turn on to allow me to have that action. Unfortunately, I have no idea. It would be nice to know some kind of in between role without having to be the global admin. Okay, so now that ran, and look at that. So now I've got a quiz taken. So now I know the date, but I also have the date that it was created. So we could do something like have a flow that goes and looks if people haven't taken the quiz yet, maybe. Or you could even have like the quiz expires maybe a year later if their quiz taken date is, over a year that it needs to
they have to re-credential.
Yeah. Okay, so once a week, or we can do every day whenever you want to do it. I'm gonna go look to the SharePoint list and get items. then I need to know if they have not taken the quiz. So I need to know if quiz taken is their quiz score is 0. Maybe I might need to default that to 0, the quiz grade, because then I could just say it equals 0, and then I wouldn't have to do is it null, because that's a pain. No, because then they could actually take it and get a 0. Okay, yeah, I'll just look to see if it's null. Okay, there's a way to do that. Okay, so filter where, and I have to go get the system name of that thing because I create it with spaces in it. Quiz taken. This is my little just shortcut to do that. There we go. Field quiz taken. Oh wait, no, quiz grade. Sorry, that's the one I want. Quiz grade. I can't put less than if it's empty. I think the way I've had to do this before just to know if it was null is I had to just create a variable and just have nothing in it. You all let me know if you have some other way of getting a null piece of information. See, there's nothing in this variable, var null, and then site owners EQ, and then I put var null. Oh, it replaced the whole thing. God. Quiz grade EQ equals var null. There. I wonder if I have to put that in quotes. Yeah, we'll just try a couple things. And that always works differently depending on what type of field it is, too. Get untaken quiz people. You like that name for a flow? That's good. Okay. All right, I'm just going to test that and run it. Oh, it looks like it already, let's see. I love the way these scheduled ones, they just have usually just already just run no matter what you do, even if you don't click to run it. Yeah, I think I did my syntax wrong. List not found. What? What do you mean list not found? Oh, I typed it. It jumped around and it put what I typed in there. See, I was in the middle of typing this, and then it like put what I typed in this other one. Gosh, that's fun. Okay, now try again. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do is we're gonna take their site away from them. Haha. Is not valid. Yeah, the expression. Oh, it's because I put it in quotes. Oh, and it's got to be a number. See? This has got to be a... because it's a number field. Oh my gosh, I'm making this so painful for myself too, aren't I? Var null equal var null. I might have to just either put something in it if they haven't taken it yet, or yeah, that's good times. Oh, holy cow. Oh, it came back with nothing. Well, at least didn't error out that time. Oh, see, look, it changed my null to equal 0, and none of them actually equal 0. That's fine. That's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to SharePoint. It's numbers need to when you're dealing with numbers in SharePoint and Flow, they need to have a number. And there needs to be a number there. And any kind of automation around it is just usually horrible if you don't have a number in a number field. Okay, so I went ahead and just put the default as 0, and I'm just going to put all these as 0. Because even if they did take the test and get a 0, you still need to take their site away from them, right? There. And you might want to say, is their quiz score less than a certain number, like less than 20, or whatever your total happens to be. You could do that as well. You just have to determine what you think their passing grade needs to be in order to still keep their site. Okay, so now let me run it without having to do this null thing. Quiz grade equals 0. That's so much easier. Oops, it took it out again. Equals 0. There, I think it's stuck. Now, it should return me a few people this time. Oh, yeah, that's true. Betty said maybe default it to -1. Yeah, but I would still want to do the same thing to them if they took it and got a 0. It's still not returning me any data, though. Alrighty. So what do we do when we can't get it to filter query correctly? We let it not filter them and go test it and see what the data looks like. It's fun in troubleshooting, right? This is what we do when we do Flow. Quiz grade 5. Okay, I'm going to put less than 5. Quiz grade LT5. This is where, Joelle, I don't know if you find this every time you do Flow, that you end up losing hours and hours of your life because of just doing little things like this over and over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It's like some kind of little weird syntax thing, or maybe I do need to have a variable that it's got a 0 in it and it needs to look at the variable. See, like it's still, anyway. All right, so what are we going to do to the people who haven't, passed the test? So let's just move on to that real quick. So we've only got a few more minutes. So that's going to be our Office 365 actions. Office 365 group actions are, we could do remove member from group. So we can remove a member, we can remove that person from the group. We can remove everybody from the group. We can go list all the group members and then remove every single one of them. So just for fun, list group members. Oh, you need to know the group ID. So we need to know the group ID of the item that we just got. Fortunately, I was storing that in a field, in a column in that SharePoint list. So that's something that's helpful to have, right? So for each item in the SharePoint list that doesn't have a score of a certain value, it's going to go list all the group members of that specific group ID. And what do you want to do for all the group members? That's really harsh to go remove them. But this would be the same. Dun, dun, dun. The same group ID I just used right here. Group ID. And then who am I removing? And I'm removing, see, it's listing all the group members. I'm moving each person. So then it's putting a loop inside of a loop too. Now I'm going to try one more thing with this weirdness with the getting the items before I try that. So var 0, make it an integer, and put the value of 0. Where quiz grade equals var 0, right? Stacy, we're about to find that out. I've seen groups not have an owner when someone left the company and it just was orphaned and had no one. Let me go test this. We'll see if it doesn't like us removing all the people from groups. Oh, it ran successfully, except it didn't get any items that time. I don't know. That is odd, because that is, let me see, quiz grade. Oh, did it not finish saving this? Oh my gosh. Did SharePoint, oh, SharePoint locked up and nothing had a 0 in it. Isn't that perfect, Joelle? There's like a 10-second delay from Joelle seeing my screen and you all seeing my screen. So none of these things had an actual 0 in them. So yeah, because I hit exit quick edit and it was still just spinning.
Oh no.
So now they have quiz grades. That explains why I wasn't returning anything. I didn't need a variable. Equals 0. Let's see. Yeah. It should get a few items this time. There, yes. Okay, now it's, see where it's going to error out. List group members. Okay, what's the error this time? Resource not found. Okay, so one of these, the site doesn't even exist anymore. And that makes sense because this is just test stuff. So let's go see. That one's resource not found. 3, 4. Now, I need to find one that I know does exist and see what exactly that it's having problems finding. So this is where you spend a few more hours of your life, you know, troubleshooting flow. Okay, so the ones that I got, so we've got like I'm looking at this raw data here. Group ID 4A 4C 2237 blah blah blah. And then let's see. Oh, well yeah, see they didn't all fail. All right. So they didn't all fail. They only the ones that the group didn't exist anymore, they failed. So that makes sense. So this group ID got the group members, and then the ones that I had deleted because I was testing, the ones that didn't exist anymore, those are the ones that errored out. So this is all the list of users, the members that it gave me. And then I said, remove member from group. And so for each person, it looped through them all and removed them all from the group. So now I'm going to go in as Billy and go, let's see, which one is a site that exists that has quiz grade of 0? IT Billy test site. IT Billy test site. Okay, I'm logged in as Billy. I'm going to refresh this. Oh, it's still, it doesn't have any members listed, but he's still technically on the site. That is interesting. Yeah, so that's the first time I've tried to just delete all the members of a group. So one of the next things, again, theoretically, if you were going to do this, one of the next things you probably want to do is to tell the person first, your site, you know, you haven't passed the quiz, we're going to remove your access to the site. You might want to warn them before you just remove everything. And then send them a warning email after a certain amount of time, and then, you know, actually remove them from the site after a certain amount of time, and then maybe even delete the site. So let me go flip back over to here. All right. So, okay. Lisa says, I think you can't delete an owner without demoting them to a member. Oh, that's a good point. You could, as part of this flow, you could make yourself the admin, make yourself an owner, and then remove everyone except yourself. But that, again, that's pretty harsh, just taking the whole site away. At least you're not deleting the whole site, right? So you're just kind of shocking them into, now if they're not using it at all, then they're not going to notice and they're not going to care. And then you could just have some other step that gives you an email, sends you an email and lets you know to go ahead and delete it. I don't think there's a whole delete site action in here. I don't think there's a remove owner. Let me check real quick though. The Azure, let me look at the Azure connectors. Azure AD, and I'll put group. Add user, remove member from group. It doesn't have anything about whether they're the owner or not. So I think that when you get a group get the group members though, it tells you what each person's role is going to be. Let's go look at that because that's important to know when it tells you their role. List the group members. Let me go find one that didn't fail. There we go. Okay. It says user. It doesn't say whether they're the owner. Sorry, I know I'm not sharing my screen anymore. It doesn't say in the flow whether the person's the owner or not when it's getting all the group members. So, but yeah, that was. Hopefully you got some ideas maybe, and you can at least do that first step where you get notified about new sites or notified about anything at all that you're interested in happening, you know, anywhere in Office 365. And now you know how to trigger a flow based off that email arriving and then being able to extract all little pieces out of it if you need to. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. Check out all of our Power Apps and Power Automate and SharePoint training at iwmentor.com. And I will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.